Good evening and welcome to virtual Soirée Cedille. I'm Jim Ginsberg, founder and president of Cedille Records, and tonight we're here to celebrate Chicago's classical music community and the resilience of its musicians. I've been so inspired and encouraged by the innovation and creativity of these artists as they find new ways to engage with audiences. Think like everyone here, I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say how much I miss live concerts, gathering together in person in an acoustically beautiful space, seeing the music performed live in front of us. And I sure hope we get back to those days in the not very distant future. But in the meantime, I hope tonight's program will provide some relief and inspiration. In a few minutes, I'll be proposing a toast, so please have a glass of wine or beer or whatever your favorite beverage might be handy for that. From our first record back in 1989 until now, over 30 years later, Cedille has always been a label with a mission and on a mission. Cedille strives to elevate Chicago's finest classical musicians, performers, and composers by introducing them and their music to broader audiences, documenting their work for posterity in the highest possible quality, and providing them with a promotional tool they can use to further their careers. One of the groups we referred to their first Cedille recording as their business card times 1,000. During this time of isolation and closed concert halls, we found our services to be even more important to our artists than ever. And as a not-for-profit, we're able to provide these services, provide this artist-focused mission, thanks entirely to your generous support. So thank you for that. And in fact, tonight we have a challenge grant provided by the board of directors of Cedille. Our goal this evening is to raise $40,000 during the run of the show. The good news is that we're already halfway there because our board has generously given $20,000 and is challenging everyone to match that. So I hope tonight's program will inspire you to want to contribute, and you can donate online, via text, via phone, and all the information for these different ways to give is right there on your screen beneath the video screen on your viewing page. Now, before I offer the promised toast and introduce our first artist, I hope you will enjoy a short film about Cedille.
When you support Cedille, you are supporting your Chicago music community. You're supporting world premiere recordings, you're supporting the commissioning of those works, and you're supporting an organization that's led by somebody who cares so much about music and curates it in a really special and beautiful way.
What Cedille does is it really brings Chicago artists to the forefront.
When they get behind a project, they get behind it 100%. And that includes all kinds of incredible support for the artists in terms of paying for the recording and the artwork and helping to develop the concept. And none of that would be possible without the support of all the generous people who are a part of the Cedille family.
I've been so lucky and fortunate to have been able to work with a company like Cedille. They do wonderful work. They're open and they embrace all types of ideas. It's been fantastic for my career.
Recordings are very important for artists. We can play concerts all day long, but ultimately the recordings are what can reach the most people.
Our music does not get out there without a recording. I can't tell you how many pieces I've written that nobody knows anything about, even if I think they're my best pieces, just because I don't have a recording of it.
When we commission a new piece of music for orchestra, well, the audience get to hear it once or twice in Chicago area, but then nobody else knows about how wonderful the pieces are. It's so wonderful that we have this tremendous recording company in Chicago.
What I appreciate as an artist with Cedille is that I can present artist-led recordings, and I can really present recordings that I believe in.
With all of the recordings that we've made with Cedille, one of the most amazing things about them is that they're world premiere recordings of these pieces. And I think it's hard to actually understand the profundity of that. This is the archival recording of this world premiere piece, and that's very special.
I think Cedille is really a champion, really spearheading and really being a huge supporter for artists and for the art in general.
These albums have had such a fundamental impact on the entire arc of my life as a musician. I can't state strongly enough how important it is to have this level of support from a recording company.
Before we begin the program in earnest, please join me in raising a glass to artists everywhere who've been so creative during these troubled times, meeting the challenges of the pandemic with innovative performances. They provided comfort and inspiration to all of us, and this is particularly true of all four performers on tonight's program. So, to everyone continuing to produce great music and all of those consuming it, cheers. So we begin tonight's musical program with an artist who has inspired so many with his spontaneously created Take Two Knees campaign on social media in response to the police killing of George Floyd. If you haven't seen that already, be sure to check it out after the soiree. I am, of course, speaking of clarinetist Anthony McGill. Anthony and his brother, flutist Damari McGill, were born and raised on Chicago's South Side and gained their musical educations through the Chicago Youth Symphony Orchestras and the Merritt School of Music. Both have gone on to be principal players in major American orchestras. Anthony served in principal positions with the Cincinnati Symphony and the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra, and since 2014, he's been the principal clarinet of the New York Philharmonic. He's also the recipient of a prestigious Avery Fisher Career Grant, and particularly celebrated as one of 4 musicians to perform at Barack Obama's 2009 inaugural, performing a piece written specially for the occasion by John Williams alongside colleagues such as Itzhak Perlman and Yo-Yo Ma. Anthony made his professionally produced, internationally released recording debut with Cedille's 2014 release of his Mozart and Brahms Clarinet Quintets album with the Pacifica Quartet. And he's gone on to make 2 more Cedille albums with his brother, a disc of trios with pianist Michael McHale, and a disc of duo concertos with the Chicago Youth Symphony's Symphony Orchestra. So, Anthony, welcome to the program. You were clearly already very well established as a major American musician years before you made your recording debut with Cedille. So why was making that debut so important to you, and why is it still important to make new projects on record?
Hi, Jim and everyone. It's so wonderful to be here with you tonight. It was really special for me because, honestly, if it's not put down on record, in the old school way, with a label like Cedille or anyone, it's kind of a dream when you're a young musician. It feels like you haven't really arrived as a professional, really. I mean, you can perform concerts, tons of concerts, but unless it's, released and people can actually hear it, it feels as though you're not really there yet.
I really appreciate that Anthony. Now, before you introduce and play your set, I just want to say how gratified I am and all of us at Cedille are that you recently joined our board of directors. Can you talk about why you came to that decision?
Yeah, I remember when you asked me to be a part of it, it was kind of an easy yes. Besides the fact that I'm very busy and you were very sympathetic to that. I knew that I'd be able to make a difference, and make a difference actually in the lives of musicians. And because to be able to offer what Cedille offers, it's the complete package. And to be a part of some of those decisions and to be in the room for some of those projects before they happen is just such an honor. So it's a privilege to be a member of the board.
Well, again, we are so grateful that you are with us. So I think everyone's going to enjoy what you've chosen to play this evening, which includes a solo version of a piece that you play in a different arrangement with your brother on that trio album I mentioned. So why don't you talk about and perform your program?
Great. So this evening I'll be performing Vocalise. Everyone knows that one, and this is going to be solo clarinet, so you can kind of fill in the harmonies. So it's a really, it's always beautiful, the song without words. And the second piece I'll be playing is the Belekovac homage à Bach, and I really hope you enjoy it.
nobody else is doing the service to Chicago music and musicians that this label is doing.
Chicago has a really vibrant new music scene and music scene. But what's so helpful is we can be producing all this wonderful music, but once again, if we don't share this with the world, if they don't know what we're doing, perhaps they won't come and check us out and see what makes Chicago so special.
It is a nexus of artistic expression throughout the Midwest and a great portion of the country. Such a big and diverse city. And Cedille, I think, has really tapped into the unique talent and individualism of many of its artists.
In part because of my association with Cedille at an early stage in my career, even though I've never lived in Chicago, I feel like it's my second home. It's certainly an artistic home for me. And every time I come there, I really feel that who I am as an artist is welcomed and supported.
We really have something unique here. It's a label that speaks to our city and what matters to us as a city.
I look with envy on the beautiful arts community that Chicago has. And like anything that you have that you just grow up around, you don't notice it because it's just how things are. So I just want to really acknowledge Chicago for having this arts community and having Cedille as part of that community that is seeking out what makes Chicago wonderful artistically and highlighting it, documenting it, and bringing it to people.
And there's simply no other city in the U.S. that's doing what Cedille is on behalf of local artists.
At Cedille, we talk about presenting artist-driven recordings, and what that means to the artists we record is that they propose the repertoire on their recordings, and as a result, our recordings often feature new music that is very personally meaningful to the artists. And the next two performers we'll hear are great examples of this. First, Third Coast Percussion. Third Coast bills itself perfectly as, and I quote, a Grammy-winning, artist-run quartet of classically trained percussionists who hail from the great city of Chicago. Like Anthony and Tamari McGill, Third Coast is a testament to Chicago's great music education institutions, in this case, the Beenan School of Music at Northwestern University, where these four phenomenally talented players met and got together. Third Coast's mission is to inspire and educate through the creation of exciting and unexpected musical experiences. And that's something they've certainly done through their 3 albums on Cedille so far, and you're actually about to get a sneak preview of a piece from the 4th. But the 3 albums currently on Cedille include their Cedille debut, of course, which was a 2016 CD of music by Steve Reich, which won them a Grammy. So, David Skidmore of Third Coast Percussion, I guess I'd like to start by asking you, what was it like winning a Grammy, and what did it mean for the ensemble?
Well, thanks for having us on here, Jim. Winning a Grammy was a real life-changing experience, as I suppose one might imagine it is. But it was a real turning point in our career as an ensemble. And to be up on that stage and to accept that award, which is bigger than even classical music, but to accept that award on behalf of classical ensembles of all different instrumentation, and then take it a step further and to accept that as a percussion ensemble, the first percussion ensemble to win that award, it really meant a lot to us both personally and for our genre of music.
Wonderful. Well, before we hear the piece that you played at the Grammys with the great Ravi Coltrane in collaboration, I should mention, let's talk about Third Coast Percussion's journey on Cedille. And at Cedille, we've really been thrilled to be part of your journey from acclaimed performers to acclaimed composers and collaborators, having had the opportunity to release your compositional debut called Paddle to the Sea. and your recent collaboration with British pop star Devante Hines, making his debut as a classical composer. And of course, on your upcoming project with Chicago composer and performer Clarisse Assad and her famous father, guitarist and composer Sergio Assad. Through all this, how would you say Cedille has supported you on your artistic journey?
Well, I think that the sentiments that have been expressed so far tonight of Cedille as an artist-driven label really say it all. Our first album that we put out on Cedille, as you mentioned, was an album of Steve Reich's music, and that was for a percussionist. Putting out an album of Steve Reich's music is what to a cellist is putting out an album of the Bach cello suites. It's sort of putting your mark on important and influential works, and we're just certain that the album couldn't have been what it became without the support of Cedille and your willingness to sort of go along with an album full of just music by Steve Reich, and to know that that album would speak to people. And then I remember we finished that up and we were like, well, the next thing we want to do is write something. Do you think Cedille's going to go for it? And you trusted us, and we wrote this work together called Paddle to the Sea, which was our second release on Cedille, and that album did very well. And then we took it a step further, and we said, there's this artist that we're so interested in working with, and he actually hasn't even written a classical work before, but he's an amazing composer with an affinity for classical music. And again, you've just sort of gone with us on our journey as we've been finding the things that inspire us as artists, which inevitably are going to be the things that are most inspirational for audiences. So the fact that you can find artists who you trust and trust those artists to make the music that speaks to them, I think that's what makes Cedille so phenomenal.
Well, in Third Coast's case, that trust is very well rewarded. Think of what Steve Reich had to say about that album. The quote, I believe, is, "People ask me if my music is subject to interpretation. All I can say is listen to Third Coast Percussion." So I think another hallmark of Cedille is how closely we work with our artists and ensembles on all aspects of the recording, including production and marketing. So for you, how has Cedille been a resource for you from a professional perspective?
We had released a number of albums before on a number of different labels before we started working with Cedille. And the thing that stands out about Cedille, really a cut above all the rest, is just the professionalism. You guys are an exceptionally well-run, not-for-profit organization that knows not only all of this artistic stuff we've been talking about, how important it is to identify artists who are going to speak to audiences and then trust those artists, but then do all the stuff on the back end that no one really knows about if they're just buying the CDs. But having the financial wherewithal to put us in the best recording studios, having the savvy to market the album so that they reach the people that they need to reach, having all of the knowledge of how to release in today's digital landscape. People still listen on CD, but so many on CDs, but so many people are listening digitally, and Cedille's at the forefront of all the new ways that people are consuming music, and we just can't say enough. At Third Coast Percussion, we pride ourselves on how professional we are as an organization, and we've only found a very small handful of organizations that we feel so inspired to work with, and Cedille is at the top of that list, absolutely.
Well, that's really wonderful to hear, and as much as I'd love to hear you say even more like that, I think everybody is looking forward to hearing you play selections, and these are selections from your first Cedille album and your next Cedille album, so take it away, please.
Great. This will be the third movement of Mallet Quartet by Steve Reich.
As Jim mentioned earlier, Third Coast Percussion's next release on Cedille Records is with the brilliant composer, multi-instrumentalist, vocalist Clarice Assad, and her father, the legendary classical guitarist Sergio Assad. We're very lucky that we were able to record and do the first couple of performances of this project shortly before the pandemic hit. And we're very much looking forward to the day when we can get back on the road with Sergio and Clarice performing this project. We really miss performing with them. We're also really looking forward to the release of this album on Cedille. We feel so fortunate to have such an amazing platform to be able to share this music with the world. Here is one of the pieces from that project. This is The Hero by Clarice Assad.
I know when an artist tells me they're going to be recording on Cedille, I'm in great shape.
In regard to audio recording with Cedille, the label routinely is praised for the quality of its sound.
I think a real testament to that is the fact that I haven't been in the room when my pieces have been recorded. And yet, when I'm sent the master, it sounds phenomenal. And I couldn't ask for a better experience than that. That's pure gold for a composer.
I don't think I've ever given a Cedille release a negative review, and I can't think of any other publication that's done anything different either.
What Cedille Records has done for me for my career has been tremendous. There's just no denying that whatsoever. Without Cedille Records, I would not have the international career that I have going right now. It turns out that a lot of people want to know that someone else has taken a risk on you first. So to have Cedille Records produce these incredibly high-level CDs with fabulous musicians playing my music, it gives people this sense of confidence that yes, somebody has taken a chance, and look, here's a really great quality recording. Someone really cared about bringing this composer to the forefront.
Cedille, as an esteemed American record label dedicated to the preservation and promotion of classical music, is one that for us has been such a big part of what we do and what personally I've wanted to do over a great many years, which is promote contemporary music, promote valid, groundbreaking artists, and work with the people that really want to take this art form forward.
Because of Cedille's reputation, there are many musicians who would love to be on the label. I tell them all they have to do is move to Chicago.
Well, before we move on to our next artist, who is baritone Will Liverman, I just want to remind people, and also tell those who may have joined a little late, that we do have a challenge tonight. We're hoping to raise $40,000, and the board of Cedille Records has generously gotten us halfway there with a matching challenge of $20,000. So they are encouraging everyone else, if you support the work we're doing. And, one thing that really makes Chicago unique is that this is the only city that has a record label devoted to the classical musicians of a metropolitan area. So if you support these artists' work and their desire to be recorded, I hope you will meet our board halfway and help us raise the additional $20,000 we're hoping to raise tonight. As I mentioned, our next artist is baritone Will Liverman, who has won numerous awards and accolades, including a Marian Anderson Award, a Richard Tucker Career Grant, and the Sphinx Medal of Excellence. Now, Will is a laureate of the Ryan Opera Center at Lyric Opera of Chicago and has the distinction of being the youngest singer ever admitted to that program. He actually started at the age of 23. Another amazing distinction for Will is that this January, he became the first black Papageno at the Metropolitan Opera after almost 500 performances of the Magic Flute at that company. Will's debut album on Cedille, to be released in February, is an all-black composers program, including a work Will commissioned himself from Chicago composer Sean Apebolo, who incidentally is Chicago Opera Theater's new vanguard emerging composer in residence. Sean's piece is titled Two Black Churches, and it's based on the Birmingham church bombing of 1963 and the Charleston church shooting of 2015. It's a very moving work, and in a moment we'll hear Will's performance of the first piece, Ballad of Birmingham, with pianist Craig Terry, who is music director of the Ryan Center. This was taped in Craig's apartment on Friday, but Will is live with us right now. So, Will,
hey.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Jim.
So your upcoming full album debut on Cedille, and I say that because you did make what I guess we could call a cameo appearance on an earlier Cedille album, Sisters in Song with Nicole Cavell and Alison Cambridge, and a beautiful performance of everybody's favorite Mozart trio from Così fan tutte. Mm-hmm. But this full album is such a thoughtful and personal concept. Why is it something that you wanted to move out of the recital hall where you've performed it many times and onto a recording?
Mm-hmm. I felt that it was important for a project that was just, so meaningful to put my best foot forward and do a recording, because a recording allows you, gives you the best opportunity to, bring a piece to life artistically, vocally. It gives you the artistic freedom, to when you record something, you can look back on and be like, maybe this part was, I want to redo this and make it this way after, listening back a few times. So you can really get and capture what you're going after with the song. And recording, high quality recording, allows you to do that.
Well, and I wanted to ask you, especially because we recorded this during this COVID period in July, what was it like recording this album, particularly during a period when you were not able to do as many live performances as you would like?
Yeah, it felt weird at first. I felt like kind of a rebel, like, should we be doing this? Like having the masks on, then, taking them off to sing, then putting them on to like review the music. But ultimately, like after we got settled in and started really going, it brought me so much joy to be able to make music again, and to like really dig in there and do the work, and and to work with Paul and to collaborate with people was so refreshing and nice to do during that time. So I had a blast.
And Paul, of course, here's Paul Sanchez, who is your collaborator on the recording. Mm-hmm. So finally, I just want to ask, on a personal level, what has it meant to you to have a label like Cedille in Chicago that supports local talent?
Oh, it's super important. I mean, I can't think of a city really that does that really provides a platform for like locally based artists and gives us a voice. Is the reason why one of the reasons why I decided to stay in Chicago. It's such a meaningful thing, and it's so important to have that. And I'm so grateful to be a part of the Cedille family in that way.
Well, we're very glad to have you in Chicago, and to think that Cedille is part of that is really gratifying. Mm-hmm. So, as both the commissioner and performer, can you introduce your performance of Ballad of Birmingham that we're about to hear?
Yes, this is the Ballad of Birmingham from Two Black Churches by Sean O'Pebolo.
Freedom sweet, and drawn white gloves on her small brown hands, and white shoes on her feet. The mother smiled to know her child was in the sacred
it's really not possible, especially in this day and age, for a record label to release a recording, put it out, and say a prayer and hope that it's going to get some attention. It requires a lot of marketing, a lot of long-term attention, cultivation of socials, and the cultivation of artist relations. And for my money, Cedille does that arguably better than just about any other classical label in the United States.
Cedille is one of the few labels that actually pays for the recordings. Rather than having the artist pay for the recording or raise the money for the recording. And this is very important for young artists especially.
Your music doesn't exist until someone plays it, and it's not going to exist in a way that people can access in their lives unless it's recorded.
I have 5 works on 5 discs, and I can attest to the fact that I get performances down the road because people heard a piece on Cedille.
One of the things that sets Cedille apart is the connection between the label and its artists, the real personal connection, the real caring connection. I don't see that in most labels.
I feel like they care about making sure that it's the artist's vision, not just from the beginning, but all the way through.
Recordings are so important for artists because we can't leave our studios, we can't leave our walls. Though we would like to be there to play for you in person, really the only option is through a recording. So that means it's beyond the measure of gold, to be quite honest. It's everything.
Well, before we come to our final performance of the evening, I just want to take a moment to thank all our supporters, in particular our very generous sponsors and host committee members. If you're on the Cedille page, if you scroll down toward the bottom of the page, there is a button where you can see the names of all these tremendous sponsors and host committee members who have given so generously tonight, and I hope you'll be inspired to join them. I should note there's also a button for seeing some of my father's recipes you might enjoy, as well as our business partners, and I hope you'll throw some business their way as well. Now, in between the video screen and those buttons below are the ways you can give by phone, text, or there's a click to donate link right there. So I hope you'll be inspired. Again, our board is put up a challenge, $20,000 to be matched by another $20,000, and we're working our way toward that, so I hope you'll help. But now we do come to the final performance of the evening, and I'm really excited about this. A Cedille artist for nearly a quarter century, Rachel Barden-Pine is a true Chicago phenomenon. She is celebrated for her extraordinary ability to connect with audiences, and she made her debut with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra at the age of 10 and has gone on to win so many awards and accolades. Just to name one, she was the first American and youngest ever gold medal winner at the then quadrennial International J.S. Bach competition at Leipzig. Rachel has made 20 acclaimed recordings for Cedille and has served on our board since 2007. So, welcome, Rachel.
Great to be here. I've been enjoying watching the gala, and I'm excited that we were able to pull this off under the circumstances. It's been a really inspiring evening.
Wonderful. Well, given your long-standing relationship with Cedille, I'd just love to hear you talk about your artistic and personal journey with us over the years and how working with Cedille has allowed you to pursue your artistic interests and passions.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about this as I was doing my hair just now, and I was realizing that on the one hand, many of the albums I've made have been very important, even necessary for supporting my performance career. Of course, a lot of the concerts I do are major concertos with orchestras, and so having my version of the Brahms, my version of the Mendelssohn, my version of the Beethoven out there is just makes it that much more likely that I'm going to be invited by orchestras, by conductors, and of course being able to share that music with the public, especially people from towns I might not be performing in that season, is really, really special. But on the other side of the coin, it's really fun to be able to put on album music that maybe I wouldn't get invited to perform as often because it's not necessarily what concert series believe that the public wants to hear as frequently, or things like that, like my Vivaldi concertos for the 14-string cousin of the violin, the viola d'amore. Another record label might want to pigeonhole you and have you fit a certain image and be more narrow in their marketing of you. And you guys were like, you want to record on viola d'amore? Sure, why not? And what's brilliant is that, that album ended up on a major Hollywood soundtrack. So sometimes if you do what you're passionate about, it's definitely the right thing to do. But then besides the albums reflecting what I'm already doing with my life artistically and professionally, what's been amazing about this journey is that sometimes the albums themselves end up changing the trajectory of what I'm doing professionally. For example, the violin you're about to hear was lent to me for that Brahms recording because of its historic connection as being an instrument that Brahms chose for one of his proteges, and because the owner of the instrument liked the record. I've been playing it ever since and now have it on lifetime loan, and it's the one instrument I've ever met that is kind of my soulmate, and that would have never happened except for that record. My Music by Black Composers project that I've been doing for the past couple of decades, which has now become, even more important these days, came about because of my 97 album, Violin Concertos by Black Composers, that you and I did together. My trio formed because we came together for a Handel sonatas project and liked working together so much, we decided to become a permanent chamber group, Trio Settecento. So it's been this wonderful back and forth with the recordings being such an integral part of my life and such an organic part of my journey as an artist. I can't imagine not having, this ability to share my music with in this type of a way. And particularly now during the pandemic, it's been lovely to see people with time on their hands kind of coming back to some of my older titles, and especially being drawn to some of the music like my Lullabies album, which is custom made for #Songs of Comfort.
Wow. Well, that's a lot, Rachel. I'm so glad to have been part of so much of that. And of course, the selections you're about to play, I think the albums they're from are perfect examples of this. So I hope as you perform your selections, you'll also talk about the wonderful album projects that they came from.
Absolutely. Well, is it time to take my earbuds out and fiddle a little?
Sure.
Okay. So, the first thing I'm going to play is from my most recent Cedille record, Blues Dialogues, a celebration of 20th and 21st century Black composers. And this is by a composer who ended his career right here in Chicago, Coleridge Taylor Perkinson. I was lucky to get the opportunity to work with him at the end of his life. And this is one of my favorite, well, actually, I love basically everything he wrote. And there's an entire album dedicated to him on Cedille. I particularly love his solo cello piece. But this is Louisiana Blues Strut by Coleridge Taylor Perkinson. And then I'm going to follow that up from with a piece from an album dedicated to a great Illinois artist, Maud Powell, my all-time musical hero. And this is her arrangement of the concert version of the old spiritual Nobody Knows the Trouble I See, which was put together by J. Rosamond Johnson, who was, of course, the composer of the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice. And Maud Powell had gone to his music school for African-American children in New York to play a special benefit concert, and she wrote this encore piece for that occasion. So first the Coleridge Taylor Perkinson, and then the J. Rosamond Johnson.
You know, wherever I perform that piece these days, the audience loves it as much as I do, and it's such a relief, quite frankly, to be able to answer their inquiries about, have you recorded it, with the answer, yes, I have, because that would be a lot of disappointed people if I hadn't. Well, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I'm also honored to be a board member of Cedille Records, and so I want to add my personal thanks to that of Jim and all of my fellow board members, to all of you who've supported tonight's event.
Thank you so much, Rachel. That was really special. So I have so much to thank people for. First of all, I want to thank not only Rachel, but all of our performers tonight. It really, musically, this has been such a tremendous lift for me. Also, the one advantage of this format is that we have people who would not normally come in person to one of our soirees. So I want to send a special shout out to all those outside Chicago who have joined us tonight. I am really excited to announce, so while we're still getting all the totals, so we don't have a final total, but including ticket purchases, sponsorships, donations before and during the event, we have raised over $150,000 for the mission of Cedille Records to support these artists. And on a personal note, I just want to say, as both the president of Cedille Records and the producer of most of its recordings, it's such a privilege to help these musicians realize their artistic visions and further their careers. So I think I'd like to end tonight the way we began, with a toast to all these great musicians and to everybody here again for supporting their work. So thank you and good night.